Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. I am Shivam from Team ZapScale. It's been quite a while that we did our last webinar. I think it was last December, but it's good to be back again with another exciting topic. In the previous webinar, we talked about how ZapScale tracks deep customer health for CS teams. It was a fun webinar and we had great conversations with our attendees. I'll leave a link to that in the chat box soon. But today we are presenting how ZapScale enables successful product adoption tracking. And that is why we have an expert with us, Kundan, who is a retention specialist at ZapScale and who will talk in detail on why we need product adoption and how ZapScale can help you in effectively tracking product adoption. If you have any questions between the webinar, please feel free to type them up in the Q&A box in your Zoom control panel. I will bring them up at the end of the webinar when we have the Q&A session. Now, without further ado, I will let Kundan take this forward from here. Over to you, Kundan.
Thanks, Shivam. The feedback of Shivam in our last webinars has been we usually go over time. So this time we are going to hope and try to finish within 30 minutes. It's 8:02 right now. We can assure you that we would be done by 8:30 and you'd have the rest of the time to yourself. So let me just quickly give you a lay of the land, what we're going to do today. We are going to, of course, talk about how ZapScale enables successful product adoption tracking. When we start off, we're going to spend a couple of minutes on ZapScale, understand what ZapScale does. Then we are going to move to what is product adoption, and is product adoption even something that is important for customer success folks to look at, or is it something that product teams needs to worry about? And then we are going to go inside ZapScale and look at how in our in our small ways we can solve for product adoption and give the customer success folks a lot of power in terms of controlling the churn, the retention, the renewals with their customers through tracking correct product adoption. So let's start off. A quick overview about ZapScale. ZapScale is a B2B customer success, B2B SaaS customer success platform. We are the easiest customer success platform out there in the market. I will come back to the easiest part in the next slide. But essentially what we do is we help customer success teams of B2B SaaS organizations lower their churn rate, improve their adoption, and get a higher upsell through better visibility, tracking, and CS ops in their organization. So the key things that we do is we essentially pull in data from multiple touch points that the customer has with the B2B SaaS business. Like the customers are using products, they're raising tickets, they're asking for new features, they're paying against the invoices that are raised to them, they're writing emails, and there are, of course, certain notes and data entries in your CRM as well. We integrate with all these sources. We consolidate around 150 data points from all these sources and give you a complete detailed view of your customers. That's step number one. Step number two, what we do is we keep an eye on each of these data points that are coming in, because in today's world, a B2B SaaS customer success manager, like we discussed in our last webinar, handles anywhere between 20 to 200 to even 500 customers per person. It's impossible for you to look at each and every data point for each and every customer on a regular basis. So what we do is we keep an eye on the data points for you, and we alert you whenever something is going wrong so that you can proactively solve for your customers without having to wait for a data consolidation at the end of the week or month. And of course, through the data, through the visibility, we give very deep business analytics and predictions in terms of revenue, churn predictions, upsells, renewals, expansions, and so on. And we said that we'll come back to the easiest part. I said that we are the easiest customer success platform in the world because that's what our users think of us. In the last 2 quarters, back to back, we have been awarded the easiest to use customer success platform on G2, the best meets requirement customer success platform on G2, and also the fastest to implement customer success platform on G2, giving us an overall rating of 4.8 stars on G2. Thanks for all the love to all our customers. And I take this moment to just, show our love back to our customers, the beautiful people, the beautiful customer success teams in these organizations who are using our platform, who are sharing their feedback with us every day. and helping us grow the product, grow the entire community even bigger. uh, the typical benefits that you get out of a tool like ZapScale, a customer success platform, is that you improve your retention, you improve your expansion revenue, and at the same point of time, you reduce your effort of your customer success management team, which is improve their productivity. You take lesser time to prepare for your QBRs. You increase your product adoption. That's what we're going to talk about today. You improve your upsell, retention, renewal, forecast accuracy, and that's more or less what we do from ZapScale in the broad terms. But today we are here to discuss majorly on what is product adoption and how can you keep an eye on it and increase it and improve it for your customers and your users through ZapScale. So the first question is, what is product adoption? And is it even important for the customer success folks to look at, or is it a completely product team's prerogative? So I looked for simple definition of product adoption, and how Levi of Whatfix has described it. I could not find anything simpler than this. Very well put, very simply explained that when your customers find value in your product quickly, they build habits and the product becomes sticky, leading to adoption. The higher product adoption rate lowers customer churn, improves user retention, drives renewal, and leads to more stable revenue and higher growth. Fairly simple. Not going to spend much more time on explaining what product adoption is. And I believe that from this statement, it is fairly clear how product adoption is absolutely essential metric for the customer success teams to track, because it's all about product stickiness, directly linking to your customer churn rates, your user and customer retention rates, your renewals. So it's absolutely a customer success prerogative. Now, there's a very important point over here, which is when your customers find value. Value is another part that we pick up from the products. It's a separate stream of data altogether. Adoption of the product, how your customers are using the product, how much time they're spending, what features they're using, is the bare usage of your product. What have they adopted? How much are they using the product? Versus value is something completely different. It's an interesting topic. It's a topic for some another day, but I'm going to speak on it very, very briefly towards the end of our discussion on product adoption today. Now, if this is product adoption, then why are not all customer success managers completely on top of it? The reasons are fairly simple. Product adoption essentially is still looked at as a product team's prerogative. The product usage data is owned by the product team, which is why the CS team, the customer success team, has limited access to it. What this means is that the CS team receives data of usage, often in a lot of organizations, in some kind of a format. It's either in the form of Excel sheets, or you write a quick query on your database to find out what the usages are like. So it's not super simple, and it's not right there in your fingertips. That's what the point is, which means that the customer success team do not look at this data point or these data points on a regular basis. Rather, they do it at a cadence. They look at it once a week, once a month, sometimes at some other cadence, but it's not a regular activity which they have on their fingertips. Also, product usage data, essentially, even if I'm looking at it, it's a siloed data. I am looking at my product usage data for a bunch of customers, focusing on one customer, understanding their product usage. Then I'm looking at what are the tickets that these customers have raised? What are the email communications that they've done with me in the same time period, let's say last 1 week or last 1 month? Have they paid my invoices? Are they asking for new features? And from all of these separate data points, in my mind, somehow I have to make an idea of if this customer is happy or unhappy. If this customer is unhappy, how unhappy is it? Is it P1? Should I leave every other customer, focus on this guy? Or if it's super happy, is it ready for upsell? Should I leave every other revenue opportunity and focus on this guy? It's all a manual exercise, and it's very difficult in the scheme of handling thousands, if not thousands, hundreds of customers per person, looking at so many data points, creating this idea is very, very difficult. Even if customer success managers are given access to the product adoption data on dashboards, which means that it's there, it's been populated daily, it's still impossible to follow the trends manually for each of your customers. Again, imagine you're handling 50 customers. Every day, will you go to your dashboard and look at like 2, 3, 4 product usage data points for all your 50 customers and then take an action on it? Half of your day is gone. When would you act on improving product adoption? So this is something that we have tried to solve in ZapScale. All of these points: ownership of the data, availability of the data, visibility of the data, regularity of the data, and alerts related to the product usage or the product adoption data. So what we do in ZapScale versus what the situation is like looks something like this. We just looked at the challenges that we have as the customer success team to look at product adoption data. But with ZapScale, what you do is the customer success team owns their own product adoption data or their version of it in ZapScale. So much so that they can even choose that what features do I need to track on the customer front end. It's not a product team's call. I can have a separate set of features that I want to track from my from my product adoption journey perspective. For a customer who's on trial that I want to convert to a paying customer, a customer who's nearing renewal, I want to check what exactly they need to track. I can do all of that in ZapScale, and I have the complete control for that. What you get in ZapScale is the complete visibility of these usage data points. How much time is a customer or an end user spending on your product on a daily basis? We can aggregate it to a weekly, monthly, quarterly, but the most granular level is at a daily level. How many pages are they visiting on the product? If you have, let's say, 10 key features, 10 places, 10 buttons, 10 links on your product, which you want your successful customers to use, how many is a customer or a user actually using? What is their percentage usage of the key features? What is the number of daily active users, monthly active users, weekly active users on your customer platform? All of this can be tracked very, very simply through ZapScale. I'm going to show you how in a bit. Over and above that, the pre-built product adoption KPIs is a part of a lot of other pre-built KPIs, which makes up the overall health score of a customer. It's not a data in silo. It's a data which contributes to the health score of the customer. You can choose that how much of weightage product adoption should have on the overall health of the customer. And based on the overall health of the customer, out of your hundreds, 200s of customer, you know exactly which 10 or 20 customers are your worst performers. Who do I need to focus on so that I can reduce their chances of churning out? Who are my best performers? Who should I be reaching out for a testimonial, for a referral, for an upsell, and for any other positive activities? Further than that, we have pre-built playbooks, which essentially allows you to not consistently and continuously look at this data. You can go do your own work. The playbook looks at these data points for you. Whenever something is showing a downward trend, let's say time spent on product is going down, a DAU is going down, a customer is not using as many features as they were before, you get alerts and notifications. Not just you, as in the customer success person, but anyone in your organization who can help you solve for this. If this information for, let's say, an onboarding customer needs to go to the training team, we can send it out. If this information needs to go to a sales team because it's an upsell opportunity and they're using a certain feature a lot, you can upsell to them, we can send it to the sales team. Not just sending information, you can also send steps that this is the situation. What should you do now to solve for this issue or to maximize the opportunity of this issue? So that's essentially what ZapScale does. I'm going to quickly take a pause here from the deck, and we're going to move to the product and see how all of these things are going to look like. So this is the ZapScale's default health view. I am looking at this data at a daily range, which is yesterday's data. And the default health view shows you essentially this. For each customer, you see how much revenue they're making, how far away they're from their renewal, their AI-driven churn probability, and overall health score, which is a combination of everything that you see to the right of it. But majorly and firstly, the product usage. How many users are accessing your product from this customer organization? What is their health? Are all of them healthy? Are few of them unhealthy? What is the overall product usage health, which is divided into two parts? One is adoption, the other is value. We are focusing on adoption today. We'd speak about value some other day. But along with this, it's not the only score. You also have a ticketing score coming from your ticketing tool, like a Jira or a Freshdesk, your feature request tool coming from your feature request tool, a billing score coming from your billing tool, like a Stripe or a ChargeBee, your com score, which tells you if the customer is cold, if they're completely engaged with you, coming from integrations with emails, intercom, Slack, and finally a score which you can key in manually. All of this put together gives you the overall health score. And not just this, this is the default view. If you want to drill down on what's happening with product usage or what's happening with billing, what's happening with communication, there are predefined views where you can look at all of these sections in details and have discussions with the concerned teams. Like if I want to go on a discussion with my finance team in terms of receivables, I would look at the billing view. If I want a discussion with my support team, I'll look at the ticketing view. If I want a discussion about, what is the product adoption like with my onboarding team, with my product team, I will look at the product usage view, where you see these same customers, their overall health score, but at the same point of time, you see the details of the KPIs that we just looked at. How much time is this customer spending on the product day on day? Per unit user, how much time are they spending? How many pages are they visiting? Per unit user, how many pages are they visiting? How many total features do you want these customers to use? You have tagged 8 of them. How many are they using? They're using only 7. If I drill down inside any customer, like I'm going to GeoMart right now, I have my overview screen in which I can see trends of any KPI, including product usage. How is the product usage trending overall day on day? How is their, let's say, time spent on product trending day on day? If I want to see a weekly trend, I will just change this view to a week view. My all of my graphs would rearrange automatically, and it would show me a trend of the time spent on the product by GeoMart as a customer week on week, starting from week 4 to week 11. This is how it has been trending. How have they been using the key features in my product? This is how it has been trending. There was a low, but in this week, we have been able to increase the feature adoption. I can see how the users of this customer, GeoMart has 3 end users. How is their health trending? Have they always been good users? Are they always spending time on the product, or has there been dips? I can check this out for decision makers, influencers, normal users as well. Now, the most impressive or the most beautiful thing about this is that if I go to all data, if I go to the product feature usage tab, I see a raw heat map of what features is this customer using on my product and in what frequency. The numbers that you see is the frequency. The color coding essentially is which is used more, which is used less. So if you see any feature which is used 0 times, you know that this feature has not been adopted at all yet by the customer. If you see any feature which was in a nice bright color, but it has moved to a red, you know that this feature's adoption is going down. And the thing is that this is not only tracked at a user level. I can even drill at a customer level, sorry. I can even drill down to the end users of this customer, let's say GeoMart. These are the end users. If I just go to this view and look at these end users, I know exactly how much time is this particular end user spending on the product. How many pages are they visiting? How many features are they using? And I can even drill down and see a heat map of all the features that this particular end user who's an admin at GeoMart is uh, interacting with on my product front end on a regular basis, week on week, day on day, whatever view you would want to see. And now the question would be that how do you get this data? Getting this data is super simple. You need super light tech involvement to get this data, which is where we differentiate between a lot of other tools which are out there in the market. To track your product adoption from the front end, there are essentially 3 steps. Step number 1, super simple. Give us the name of your product, say ZapScale. and the URL of your product, which is used by your customers to access your product, say app.zapscale.com. In the product, put in this simple 2 lines of JavaScript. It has to go into every single page of your product so that we can track the entirety of your product. And essentially, you just have to replace these variables that you see in green with your session variables. Overall, this is not more than a 30-minute effort for anyone from your tech team. The moment this tracker code is in, we start tracking how much time an end user is spending on the product, how many pages they're visiting. Since whenever a user is logged in, we know exactly who the user is and from which customer organization are they logging in and using your product. Now, the question is, how do we tag the key features and how do we know which features are being used at a user level, at a customer level? Doing that is even simpler. The moment your tracker code is put in, your tech team's work is done. You can come to set up events. Anyone from your team, anyone who knows the product and the customers, can come and launch editor. What this will do is this will open up the product which is integrated with ZapScale. And on top of it, it will open up an event editor which looks like this. So imagine with me for a second that this is your product, ZapScale ELM. This is where someone can go and apply for a leave. A manager can come and approve and reject a leave. You want to, let's say, track how many people are actually interacting with downloads. Any button, any link, any click on your product can be tagged using this editor. All you need to do is click on new event. Now you see this, identifier, this target. Click on this. Your entire product screen becomes selectable. Certain places it will say not good to track. Certain places which are buttons, links, and texts which has like button links would be good to track. So if I come to downloads, it's a good to track link. I'll just click here. My feature tagging is complete. I'll say restricted to texts and I will name the feature like I want to name it. I can put in, please excuse my spellings. And that's it. Your feature is tagged. Even within a page, like inside my apply page, I want to, or even within my download page, I want to see how many people are clicking on this download users. I'll just click on new event, click on this target icon, drop the pin over here, and that's it. My feature is tagged. An alternative method to track this is, let's say, tracking it through a code. So this is something that your tech team can do. If you think that you don't want to track it using the front-end editor, although it's super simple to do it, but you would want your tech team to do it, they can use this zapscale.track event code. They can go to their code base where you have this particular feature and add this. This is usually how any other tool like a Mixpanel or any other product analytic tool does tracking of features. But how we differ is that we give you a very simple DIY editor with which the customer success team, who might or might not have deep tech knowledge, has the complete liberty and ownership of tagging the key features on their product front end and looking at a view like this, where for each of your customers, you know what features are being used, what features are not being used into the deepest of details. And if I go to an overview screen of any customer, I showed you the graphs. If I go down, I can see any data point that I'm tracking from the product. Time spent on product, I can see a graph for that. Pages visited, I can see a graph for that. I can see a graph for WAU, for DAU, for MAU. So all of these data points consolidated in one place, along with this data points converting to an overall health score of the customers, which ensures that you can prioritize your customers and see that which customers do you need to work on. This is step number one. Step number two is, let us say at any point of time, any of these numbers, time spent on product is not working out too well for any of your customers. The pages visited, it's not optimal. They're not using as many features as they should on the product. What do you do? How do you find out? Do you have to come to this view and keep an eye on this daily so that you can see how the numbers are changing? There's, of course, a trend line, but do you need to view this to know that I need to act on this? That would still be so difficult, right? So what we do is we have essentially playbooks pre-built for these situations. We have a bunch of playbooks pre-built, around 50 of them, for different situations, like a customer is struggling with, let's say there's a churn risk, or QBR is coming up, renewals are coming up, upsell customer is ready for, feature requests are too high, they've not paid their invoice on time, they're not responding to your emails, they're suddenly raising too many tickets, software usage has gone down, and your customers are inactive on your product. These two specifically, the inactivity playbooks and the software usage playbooks, are completely aligned towards your product adoption. The moment any of your customer is inactive on your product, which means they have not logged in for any time range of your choice, can be 1 day, can be 2 days, can be 1 week, can be 2 weeks, you would want to know that this is a behavior that is happening. If you had a data in a dashboard, it would be completely dependent on you to look at this data and understand this and then take an action. Instead, what we do in ZapScale is that there's a pre-built playbook which runs every Monday, or you can change it to a daily or a monthly. It looks at all your customers. If you just want to target your trial conversions, just remove everything and keep your trial conversions. Or if you just want to target your high paying customers, choose a segment of your high paying customers. Every day or every Monday, for the audience of customers that you've selected, ZapScale looks at a condition that whether this customer is inactive or gray on the product for a particular time range of your choice. If this is true, ZapScale can do four things. It can automatically create a task for the people in your internal team. By the way, there's no limit to how many people you can have on ZapScale. If you think that for betterment of the customers, for better customer success at the end of the day, you would want to involve not just your CS team, but also your training team, your product team, and have them have a view on ZapScale and have them receive notifications whenever something untoward is happening with your customers, you can do that. You can trigger notifications to anyone in your internal team. You can choose what should be the remedial steps that they would receive when they receive this task. That, hey, this is going wrong, and these are the steps that you should do to solve for this. And you can decide that there are some pre-built steps. You can, of course, decide your own standard operating procedures in your organization. While creating a task, what it can do is it can also create a message within ZapScale for the people of your choice, and also shoot a message out in your Slack channel. And at the same point of time, send out an email to you guys. So anything which is happening with your customers with respect to product usage, there is no way that you can miss it. You will have a task created, you will have a message created in ZapScale, you will get an email notification, you will get a Slack notification. There is no choice for you than being proactive with the customers and solving for the customers. That's what we wanted to achieve at. And that is why a playbook can do so many things. And once these tasks and messages are created, they go and sit in two places. If I'm a customer success manager handling multiple customers, I would be looking at my Zap book, where I can see, the total number of customers I'm handling, their, health, their revenue, possible upsells, possible renewals, and all the tasks that are assigned to me. They can either be assigned to me by ZapScale, or they can be manually assigned to me by my manager. I can also see all the messages assigned to me, all the actions assigned to me, and so on. And this is from where I go ahead and solve for this. If there is any task which is related to usage, I can just search for a task and say that show me all those tasks which are related to usage. I don't have a usage task at this point of time, which is very good, which means that most of my customers are doing very well. But if you have any task, essentially, you get the complete context of it, that this is the customer that the task is going to run for. This is the current status of the customer, and this is the problem, and these are the steps that you should take to solve for it. You can progress the task as marking, working or done, or you can put in your comments. Same for messages. Message essentially is a place where you collaborate between teammates. If you have any message on you, you can always, ask for help from your other teammates. So this essentially becomes a place where you are collaborating with your teammates and solving for a particular issue of your customers. Of course, you know how messages and emails are going to look like on your email. So I'm not going to dive into that. This is essentially what I wanted to cover today. In terms of the solution, you can have your own view of product adoption data in ZapScale. You can tag your features using the DIY editor. You have complete visibility of each user and each customer how much time they're spending on the product, how many pages they're visiting, what features they're using, how many features they're using, what kind of DAU, MAU, WAU are you seeing from this customer. You have this health score also being considered, the product adoption score also being considered in the overall health score at any weightage of your choice. And there are pre-built playbooks, plus you can create more playbooks through which anything untoward that is happening with the product adoption, let's say they're using less features, they're spending lesser time, they're not active, they're not logging in, their DAU is going down, you get alerted in multiple channels, in ZapScale, in Slack, in email, so that you're always on top of your customers' product adoption, thereby ensuring that you are in complete control of your churn rates, your renewals, your expansion opportunities, and so on. So that's what essentially we do with respect to product adoption. There's one part which I said that we are going to talk about a little bit towards the end, which is your customer's product value. While adoption is generic, product value is very specific. It varies from every business to every other business. The value that I get from Zoom would be very different from the value that I get from a tool like HubSpot. So, what we do for each of our customers is that we create a view and we kind of help them identify the key values that they should be tracking to have complete visibility of their customers. If you want to know that, how we can track your product values along with product adoption that we just looked at, we are going to leave a link in the comments. Please book a time. We would love to show you a very, very personalized demo of how ZapScale can track your product values and you can be on top of each of your customers. That's all today from my end. Shivam, over to you.
All right, Kundan. I think we have a couple of questions in the Q&A box. Uh, let's take the first one. The first one says that my product team uses mixed panel to track features. Do I need to track the features again in ZapScale?
That's an excellent question. That's an excellent question because I missed showing this part in the product. So yeah, great question. We have built this product tracker and the event tracker for majorly those organizations who would want who do not use a tool like a mixed panel or who would want to track the features separately in ZapScale. But if you've already put in the effort, if your tech team has already put in the effort of tagging the key features in a tool like mixed panel or Pendo or amplitude or segment, where you're also tracking the time spent and so on, we can very easily integrate with these tools. It's a simple API key integration. It takes essentially 5 minutes to do that. So this is actually a simpler way of getting your product adoption data onto the platform and ensure that that becomes a part of the overall health score and you get repeated alerts whenever something is going wrong with respect to product adoption. Thanks for that question.
All right, I hope that answered the question. There's one more question. Can I see the feature heat map for a particular customer segment?
For a customer segment, that's another interesting question. So yeah, you can actually create any kind of segments in Zapscape. By default, we create segments based on who this customer is assigned to. Like for example, the customers who are assigned to me would show up in Kundan segment, and it's a default segment that Zapscale creates the moment customers are assigned to me. But you can always create more segments based on ACV, location, or any other data point, any custom field data point that you want, you can create a segment with. The moment you create a segment, you can of course filter your customers in this list view with respect to that segment. But to answer your question, if you want to look at the product adoption data, you can always go to the dashboard, filter either by all customers, and see, if you scroll down, you would see the top 5 features which are being used by all your customers across the organization, or the bottom most or the least used features across all your customers across the organization. And if you've created any segment, for example, you've created a segment which is high touch customers. And in those high touch customers segment, there are 3 customers, 7 end users. You want to see specifically for these customers in this segment what is happening. you can again just scroll down and see what are the features that they're using most, what are the features that they're using least, or a list of all the features and how they're using it. So absolutely, you can see per customer segment what features are being used, what features are not being used. And it's completely onto you how you can create the segments. Any kind of segment you want to create, you can go ahead and you can see this data at a segment level. So we get the data at user level, we consolidate it at a customer level, and multiple customers form up a segment. So you can see the view at a user level, at a customer level, at a segment level.
All right. I think that's it. I would not be able to pick up another question because we've already exceeded our time.
So have we?
But if you would like to, okay, there's one more question. I think we should pick it up. So Akash says that playbooks will also be customized or updated according to the client data, and tasks will also be created.
Absolutely. It will be updated according to the client data, which means that beyond the pre-built playbooks, you can always create any playbook of your choice. I can always go to playbooks and say that in my customers' software usage, I want to just clone a playbook and create a new playbook. And for this new playbook, I would, let me quickly save it. For this new playbook, I would choose any parameter that I want. I can choose my customers, audience, or I can choose any other KPI for that matter. I can choose any particular KPI that I would want to work on. I can choose a value. I can choose what duration this should trigger in. I can choose who should these tasks be triggered to, what should be the steps that would be triggered, and so on. You can clone any playbook so that you don't have to start from scratch, but you can clone any playbook and create new playbooks with your own conditions. And any playbook that you create would automatically trigger tasks, emails, Slack messages, and so on. Hope that answers your question, Akash. If you want, we can always sit in a one-to-one communication at 30 minutes and answer your questions in further details.
Yeah, I've already given Kundan's LinkedIn link and a link to Kundan's calendar. If you'd like to know more about what Kundan just presented or anything else related to ZapScale, please feel free to book a time with Kundan. He'll be happy to take you through everything in detail.
Absolutely.
Anything else, Kundan?
Nothing else. I mean, if you want to talk about English Premier League, I am open to talking about that as well. It's not necessarily have to be shop talk. Just set up a time. Let's have a chat.
All right, all right. Okay, then. Thank you everyone for your precious time, and we'll see you again soon. Good
Super.
night.
Good night, everyone. Bye bye.